I think we're going to get started. It's a little, yeah. Welcome to the Open Government Hack Night! This is Open Gov Hack Night number 108, I believe. We've been doing this a lot. Over 2 years, we've been having this meeting every week here in this room to talk about open data and civic technology. And tonight we have a very awesome presentation with Caroline St. Clair about a project that some students with the Englewood codes. Does everybody remember Englewood codes? Yes. I love that they got the Englewood.codes domain. Like that's like very good web sense right there. Yeah.
Like 2 years in the making.
Yeah, right. You got the top level. I didn't even know .codes is available. Look at that. It's beautiful, right? There you go. Top level domain. Okay, great. Okay, so before we get to that presentation, though, we are going to quickly go around the room. Everybody can introduce themselves, just sort of say your name, what you're interested in, why you're here, and then we'll have a brief period for announcements, and then we'll get right to the presentation. And then after that, we'll all disperse from this overcrowded room and use the rest of the 1871 space to talk or work or hack on stuff. Do you have something? No. Okay, cool. All right, so I will start with the introductions. My name is Derek Eater. I'm with DataMade. I'm one of the co-organizers of this event. I like to make stuff with open data. Do you want to go next?
Yeah. My name is Christopher Whitaker. I am also one of the organizers of this event, and I am the local Code for America Brigade Captain, of which fellowship applications are no.
Ooh. All right.
Caroline St. Clair, professor of computer science at North Central College, and I'll talk more later. So.
Damon Drummer at Teamwork Englewood.
Jordan White, I was a student that worked with the Englewood project.
My name is Yahir DeLeon. I'm also part of the North Central College computer thing, and I also help with the Englewood codes.
Hi, I'm Sam French. I'm with them. I like finance and learning more stuff about computer science.
Hi, I'm Jiao, and I'm also a part of this coach, and also I'm a senior student at North Central College.
Hi, I'm Mel, and I'm a Microsoft Civic Engagement Fellow.
Hi, I'm Gavin, and I work with Mel at Microsoft.
Hi, I'm Chris. I work with GitHub.
Hi, I'm Anna. I'm with Active Transportation Alliance, and I do social media.
GT, and I'm a high school math tutor and a computer science master's student.
Hi, I'm a grad student in journalism and also a reporter.
I'm Michael, I'm a graduate student in sociology at the University of Chicago.
I'm Lalu, and I'm aerodynamics engineer. Just watch it.
Daryl Height, that's the beginning color.
I'm Lee. I'm with the Metropolitan Planning Council.
Jesse Levin, open Open Boulders, hybrid climbing gym in Co-op Space, Stone Street.
I'm Tim. I'm a freshman for computer science at UIC.
I'm Audrey. I'm a program manager for leadership development company.
Robert, I'm the Mozilla Foundation. I run a nonprofit, for-profit network of youth development people in Chicago called the iLearning Network.
I'm a game designer and a co-founder of a hybrid game design ed tech studio here called Freedom Games.
Andrew, I work on urban sustainability and resilience.
Michelle McKinney, I'm with the Nancy Red Cross.
Jim McGowan, manager planning and situational awareness, testing services for Red Cross.
I'm Corinne. I'm a math and computer science student. I'm Lauren. I just recently graduated with my master's in applied statistics from Loyola, and so I really like data.
I'm Paul. I work in integrations.
I'm Carlene. I'm a freelance technical writer, and I do help with Android-based smartphones and developer help related to GPS systems and 2D and 3D graphics.
Zach, I'm a computer science major at Paul University.
Eric and Zin, I work with DataMade, making things with open data.
I'm Josh. I do open data projects and help run Cook County's open data corridor.
I'm Mike. I'm a graduating senior at North Central College. I was project lead for kids that you're going to see in a second.
Casey, I was also a North Central student who worked on cyber at college.
I'm Will, also North Central. I covered the authentication authorization on this project.
Just jump it on style. I'm Carl Fogel, partner at Open Tech Strategies. We help governments and nonprofits launch and run open source projects.
I'm Brent. I do transportation modeling.
My name is Matthew. I'm a software engineer for Zynga in Chicago, their casino division.
I'm Nina Sandlin, and I'm with Illinois Health Matters, and they help people get signed up for Obamacare.
Good evening, my name is Lynn May. I am with the Englewood County Education Council.
I'm Mike Hoffman. I co-coordinate an internship program at McLeod.
I'm Bronson Roseborough, and I'm on the McLeod.
Hi, I'm Elizabeth. I'm the project manager at OpenVIA.
Chris Hagan, I'm a data reporter with WB.
David Eads, Chicago Tribune for Geek Chicago.
Randy Baxley, old guy. Python, likes Python and CK data.
Kit Duffy, I do political issue and opposition research, different political campaigns, and a big fan of big facts.
Gary Barlow, I'm a writer, I'm a paralegal, and very into open source. And right now I'm interested in an application if anybody wants to talk about it. I found that open source and being used around the world to make it easy for anybody to make FOIA requests of local government. So if anybody wants to talk about it.
What's the name of the app?
Out of the telly.
Oh yeah, that's the My Society app. That's like the original FOIA.
Yeah, it's being used, widespread use in Britain.
Yeah,
Spain,
absolutely.
And they want other people to use it.
Yeah, they do. It's awesome.
My name is Ben Wilhelm. I'm a PHP and JavaScript developer for Giant Rabbit, which is a company out of Berkeley. We do primarily sites and CRMs for nonprofits.
Jason Wright, I'm a director with a company called Scout, which is Ross. Do financial consulting.
My name is Alan Smith. I work at GitHub. I'm bringing the world of open source to science.
My name is David Ginsberg. I'm a software engineer here in Chicago, and I'm interested in open data and working on a couple of projects to learn more.
I'm Justin. I'm a junior at Northside College Prep, and I code in my spare time.
I'm Greg. I work with a company called Twilio. We make it easy to send and receive text messages and phone calls from your apps.
Awesome. Did we miss anybody? Wait, you got in the striped shirt. You're newish, right?
Hi.
Hi. Yeah, okay. Your name?
I'm Logan. I'm just studying computer science and want to get into kind of security and government issues, and that's basically why I'm here. It's my first time here.
Awesome. Great. Well, this is like as usual, like a very diverse and awesome group. So moving on to announcements. Does anybody have any?
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Josh.
So some people on Twitter may have seen, but you go to Cook County's data portal.
It's like
there's been a number of
data catalogs.
Data catalog, Cook County IO, is that code? There's been a number of GIS data, spatial data releases over the past couple of weeks. The big one last week was, if you go to sort by newest, it's probably the easiest way to do it. The biggest one being address points last week. That has addresses. There's two files. One is Chicago, one's the rest of the county. And it includes addresses and also includes PIN numbers you can join to parcel. There's also a bunch of other districts, election precincts, and a variety of other things like that. This takes forever to download if you're trying, so it's much faster if you download shapefile. And
this is the centroid of the parcel?
No, it's building rooftop.
Interesting.
Yeah. So there's multiple. There can be multiple buildings per parcel, or multiple addresses actually.
Yeah. Right.
So there's points for each address.
Wow.
And yeah, there's tons of fields. KML is timing out sometimes. It's taking forever to download. Is it the Chicago one? Or?
This is Chicago.
If you go to About, on the right, yeah. If you really want KML and the regular export doesn't work, if you go down, there's an attachment. And I've zipped up the KML. which will download a lot faster.
I had no idea that was there, like an attachment. Is there a lot? Is this used as a track?
Not that often. The county, the GIS department has been using it to attach all like official GIS metadata for all of their stuff. Other than that, I don't know how much it's used. So, yeah.
Awesome.
And do we have time to just explain why this is such a big deal? Can you talk a little bit about why this is such a big deal?
I mean, no, it's, you know, addresses are, there really hasn't been, there's not a good source of addresses. There hasn't been. The county maintains addressing, and parcels was a big data release about a month ago that a lot of people have been interested in, but the parcels themselves don't have addresses. So this allows you to connect addresses specifically to parcels for things like large lots and other uses.
So this is good for like people researching like foreclosure and housing and vacant property stuff.
I mean, the parcels themselves are considered to be many like the Rosetta Stone of like stuff in the city, right? So it's the unique identifier for every plot of land in Cook County, right? So the shape files for those were released about what, 2 months ago or something like that, which had just the PIN's ID, right? But what was missing was this crucial piece of information, which is what's the address. And so this is like that missing piece.
Right.
So very awesome. Cool. Other? Oh, sorry.
How many records? Just for
It's like 1.4 million?
wow.
No,
Is it more than that?
It may even be more. It's a lot. Like, it's divided up into two.
1.2.
Is it? Okay.
This is for the county.
You just counted while there's stuff.
Okay.
Yeah.
I downloaded it.
That's crazy.
Okay. Awesome. Cool. Other announcements?
What was the motion?
In the back?
So we have 23,000 square feet of space, which has now been rendered almost safe for construction. So basically, I have an open venue, and my only mission in Chicago right now is to learn about what's going on, what's cool, who's doing what, arts, entrepreneurship, programming, you name it. So if anybody wants to host a cool group, have a dinner, consider our space your space until we open. Come to a live, so open venue. Happy to host anybody in this room for an event.
Where's your
What's
space?
the name of the venue? It's one by Hudson. It's called Working Boulder, Chicago. There's a website, abchicago.com. But you guys can find me through there. Happy to buy food and drink and have a good conversation. Show me obligation.
Do you have walls to climb?
Almost.
Other announcements? That one coming in over the wire? Wait for it. Yeah. I have an announcement. So who here remembers Juan Pablo Velez? Remember that guy? Oh man, no, he's still alive. He just moved to New York. So Juan was the third person who ran this thing. So after he moved, I got to thinking a little bit about how we could replace him. And of course, we can't. So we've been thinking about ways to change this group in terms of how we organize the leadership structure. And I think we decided earlier this weekend, actually on a flight back from Washington, D.C., that we want to open up the leadership and decision-making process for this event, for the Open Gov Hack Night, to anybody who wants to participate. So we're going to have our first whoever wants to show up next week. We're going to have our first working group, and we'll just see who shows up, and we'll see what people want to do. The idea is we want to have this be the community that we've been building over the past 2-3 years. We want this group to actually be, what we do, be decided and owned in some way by the community. So I am giving up my benevolent dictator for life type mantle, and I will become just one of the other leaders among many, hopefully, of this group. So if you are interested at all in that, we can obviously, if you want to talk about it after the presentation, I'll be around. But we're going to have our first meeting next week. And I'll send that an email with details on that. So Any questions? Yeah.
Is that during hack night?
It'll be at the hack night. It'll be basically like another breakout group that typically, like after the presentation, we'll kind of go and do stuff. This will be one of those things. So if you're interested in doing that and you have ideas about what you want the hack night to become, or maybe you don't want it to change at all, come and be a participant in that. So I guess the parting thought with that is, if we're all about openness and democracy and all that good stuff, we should probably practice it. So here's to doing that. Any other announcements before we get started?
First it was Team 1 Carl's, now we're...
Right, exactly. Cool. All right, well then I guess we'll get to our main event. So guys, take it away.
Well, thank you all so much for letting us be with you. Again, my name is Caroline St. Clair. I'm Professor of Computer Science at North Central College. I have with me 7 of the students that participated in our Capstone seminar course. There were a total of 14. This course is required for all of our undergraduate majors. Just very quickly, a little bit about the course. 2 goals we have for the course. 1, to introduce students to ethical issues in the field that arise and to look at them with the lenses of our professional standards. They have to write papers and all that good stuff. But the main goal of the course is to find a project for the students to work on for a real user, someone that's not me, the instructor, so I can't give them those very clear guidelines, and I haven't written the code already to make sure they can get it done in a certain amount of time, kind of that academic environment. We kind of want to throw them into a situation where they have to work as a team. The user may change their mind. The user may not be technically savvy. That wasn't the case this time. Demond had a very clear vision. But and also to throw them into an environment where they had new technologies that they may have never seen before, and I'm not going to really teach them. So if they don't know GitHub, they're going to have to figure it out. If they don't know the framework we're using, we use Laravel, if they don't know that, I give them a little bit of guidance there. But really try to put them in a situation. I take a hands-off approach and let them see if they can figure it out. They have to work as a team. I don't talk to Demond after the project starts. I try not to. They have to interact with our end user and kind of run the show. So that's a little bit about the Capstone course. One more thing, about 4 years ago, our alumni came back and told us, you know what, you need to talk to your students about GitHub. We're being asked to use it at work. We rely a lot on our alumni to give us feedback on what's being used in the field. So GitHub was one of them, and MVC Frameworks was another. And so we incorporated those topics into the course. That's a little bit about the Capstone course. I'm going to turn it over to Demond, who can talk more about the actual project.
Great. So pull up the Englewood.code. That is pretty awesome, the Englewood. Yeah, $60. Anyway, instead of $4.99. So at a hack night, I forget when it was, Michael, but it was after one of the October of 2013, after one of the hack nights right here at 1871. Michael and another student from North Central ran me down as I was running back to Englewood. They said, hey, we're looking for a really interesting project. People told us to talk to you. I'm like, really? I was like, well, we're looking at open government stuff in Englewood. There's a lot of crime, and we can do all kinds of cool mapping things. And Michael's like, nah, whatever, right? He's like, do you have any other projects? I was like, well, there's this thing that we just did called Englewood Codes. We spent 10 weeks teaching young people in our neighborhood HTML, CSS, JavaScript. We used Bootstrap. We did this on GitHub because it's social coding. You get a student on GitHub, all of a sudden they're coding with their peers and following each other and becoming, and I quote, GitHub famous. And they're interacting that way, so they get that part of it. They're also able to collaborate, right? And just that summer of 2013, GitHub released a browser interface to do the entire Git flow. As we know, the Git flow, the GitHub flow, which is different from Git flow, right? And so we were doing GitHub flow kind of using only the browser. Why were we only using the browser? Because I did not have administrative access to the computers that I was using, right? Kennedy King College gladly and graciously rolled out the red carpet for their most high-end computer lab. And then I asked, hey, can I get admin access so I can install Git? And they looked at me with cross-eyed, and I backed out of that request very quickly. And so the question became this. The situation at Kennedy King College was no different than the situation and environment that I would face if I went into a Chicago public school or anywhere else. The idea is, how do you expose youth who are interested in learning code to not just code, but to Git, right? And to begin writing like commands for Git and understand that whole process, because that is important to the field. That's might as well start with that. And so that was the problem. And I knew GitHub had an API. And I'll toss it over to Mike.
Yeah, so hi everyone. Introduced myself earlier. I'm Mike Holler. I was the project leader, the developer for this project. And when Damon and I started talking, we wanted to figure out, okay, what actually do we need? Is there something that's already out there? Because there's online IDEs like Cloud9 is one of them. Some of you may have heard of similar things like that. The problem is these are students in high school that Damon's working to teach, and things like Cloud9, they're really complicated. IDEs have a lot of moving parts, and you're throwing somebody into Git from the start, and that's hard enough as it is. So we wanted to make something really simple. Our inspirations here were kind of like taking Notepad++, strapping Git on it, and putting it online. So that's what we did, and this is what we built here. I'm going to give you a short demo first, and then everyone on the team is going to say a short word about what they actually did on the project, and then we'll open it up to questions. So starting with this, we wanted to use GitHub with it. So Damon and his students were using GitHub Pages, which, if you don't know, there's a little. This is an example of GitHub Pages, but it's just something where's my? There it is. Oh, I don't have the back button. There we go. So it's GitHub Pages. It's just like a regular Git repository, but it's just GitHub hosts the website for you, basically. And they were using this, and they liked it. So we wanted to build something that would work with it and allow us to really. We only had 10 weeks to work on a project, so we had to pick something small enough that we could do in 10 weeks. So we picked off the pain point, which was the Git flow that Damon was talking about earlier. It was just frustrating because you could only commit one file at a time. It was hard to share your changes between people, and you couldn't really resolve merge conflicts. So if anyone used Git, those happen. So we built this, and this integrates with GitHub. So you use your GitHub login. It'll log me right in since I've done this recently. But if you haven't, it'll show you a prompt to enter your GitHub credentials, direct you to GitHub, and log you in using your credentials there, no new passwords. This is a list of all my GitHub repositories, and the students will have the same. I made this one just recently, just for this demo, Hack Night Englewood, and it's a GitHub Pages repository that's sitting up on GitHub right now. I can show it to you right here. I just showed it to you. This has, so I click on this, and it'll clone that GitHub repository into our server and show you a nice editor that looks pretty familiar. It's got a browser on the right, which is kind of getting cut off, unfortunately. Let's try to make that a little smaller here so you can see it. Uh-oh. That good? Yeah, that's good. Sweet. Okay, so we got this little browser on the right. You can look through all the files in your project just like you could on GitHub. Of course, it's a little bit easier since it's all just on a little side panel. The page doesn't reload. And you can go into something like index.html. Here's the code for this right here. And you can go ahead and edit something. This is the title. And you can save it, just like you would a normal editor, right? Just like regular Notepad++. And there we go. And then it changes color here. So this is adding Git on there. So a lot of IDEs use color marking to tell you when something has been modified in your Git repository, and this does that too. So what we want to do is we want to add that to the files that we want to commit, changes color, and we want to commit them, just like you would with a regular Git repository. It's basically just taking the changes you've made. If you're not familiar with Git, it's taking the changes you've made and packaging them up in a little box that gets chained along with all the other changes you've made. So there's a version history. We have a commit message here. Encourage people to fill in useful comments. So and execute. And this will commit the changes locally to the server. We don't see those changes reflected here. If I can figure out where I am. There we go. We don't see those changes reflected here yet because we haven't pushed the changes. So we can do a git push on those changes and send them over. Oh wow, okay.
So you went GH pages to the branch.
Oh, it's GitHub Pages.
Oh man, it's too smart. Aha.
There we go. So I was trying to push to the master branch of this repository, but it's a GitHub Pages branch, so I just entered the wrong thing. But I figured that out quickly. That would have been embarrassing. I think I can use it. And there we go. Okay, so that worked. We go in here, we can reload these pages, and then see those changes reflected on GitHub right there, which is pretty nice. Let me make it a little bit bigger for everyone who can't see it, right? So eventually those changes will propagate onto this GitHub Pages page. There it is, right? So this is how Damon's team of students is going to work on their projects. They're going to use our application to write the code for it. They're going to use GitHub to do things like collaborating and commenting on people's code, line comments like you can do on GitHub. And then they're going to publish those pages back to GitHub so that they can view them, which is kind of cool that high school students can have their own websites online at any time. So the last thing I'm going to show you here is this custom command. This is one of the things we really want to do. We wanted to be able to have these students learn Git, but not in this little siloed sandbox we created for them with these 3 nice easy buttons, right? If they want to do more, like execute a git command line command, they can do that. So one of the things people commonly do is git status. We see that reflected by the left side in the colors, but you can also do it manually.
You run a command up to Git?
No, you can't. We made sure. Yes. So there's that. You can do really whatever you want. It shell executes the command. Prepends git to it, so you don't have those problems, and escapes everything appropriately. And there we go. So that's what we did. And now I guess we can go around and introduce who did it. So if we want to start over here, everyone stand up and say what your part was.
I'm Casey, and I did the database.
Again, I'm Will, and like I said before, I took care of the authentication and authorization side of the project.
I'm Jordan. I worked on the back end for the interactions with Git and the file systems.
I'm here, and I was secondary developer to Will, so me and him worked on the authorization and authentication process.
You also helped us talk to Damon, right?
And I was also, liaison to Damon here.
Yeah, they try to get lost doing the reverse commute.
Oh, yeah.
To Naperville, where everyone else the one person on the train.
Hi, so I'm Sam French. I wrote the controller that basically gets the commands when Mike sends them from when Mike's user interface there on the right sends the Git commands, and then give them to Jordan's Git controller.
Hi, I'm Xiao. I created the type interface and the code editor by using jQuery and SEditor.
Sweet. So that's everyone, and so I'm going to very briefly background generally what we used, and then we can have each of these guys pick out one important part and talk about that. So this was built all on using an MVC framework, like Professor St. Clair here said, it's called Laravel. It's a PHP framework that's actually really nice and modern compared to a lot of other PHP frameworks. We used Laravel. We used a bunch of jQuery for the front here. We used nice file system jQuery plugin here, SEditor, like Xiao said, and I mean, really, that's it. Unless I'm creating something else. There's a MySQL database in the background and handling the user stuff, which is what Casey worked on. So this is my baby. I did this, the color changing thing and syncing with Git. That was really the thing I owned. So if anyone wants to talk about challenges that they had, by the way, there were like 20 people in class.
14.
Oh, Close. 14 people in the class. Yeah, so there are obviously people who could not be here today who did other things too.
Okay, well, yeah, I guess I'm a good person to start off with, since I took care of the authentication, which in easier terms, that's just people logging into the application. So when we were first brainstorming how to go about doing all of this, one thing that we really wanted to make sure of was we didn't want to, because this was a 10-week course, so we didn't have all that much time. We didn't want to have to worry about writing this whole encryption and security to safely store passwords. So we looked at using a protocol called OAuth 2. So a lot of you, even if you haven't heard of it, you've probably used it. That's if you playing a game online and click login with Facebook. Most likely that's using OAuth 2. So the easiest or the simplest way to explain it that I've heard is that it's basically using a valet key for a piece of software. So when you click the login with GitHub button, if you're a new user, it will redirect. It will go to a GitHub page from the GitHub website. Mike will
you can keep talking.
Do that. Yeah. So and then it will show exactly what permissions our application is looking to use. So so you know exactly what our app is going to use. GitHub will not allow our app to do anything except what we specified there. So when he logs in, you'll be able to see that. Yeah. So we those are all the permissions that we need. So then when you authorize application, I don't know, is Jordan a member of
I think he is. Yeah, he is.
Yeah, there we go. So basically what this does is GitHub itself will say, okay, he's authorized you, so here's this token. And that token is the valet key. So it only has access to his account based on the permissions that you have allowed this piece of software. So everything that we do, we just kind of, whenever we do a command, we just kind of pass along this token with it to say, hey, we have permission to do this. He gave us permission to do this, so do this.
Cool. Thanks, cool.
So, yeah.
You want to say anything about GitHub?
Yeah. This was I think the main challenge that we faced, at least I did in this project, was that Laravel, while it may be pretty easy to get the hang of if you're really familiar with MVC frameworks, me as a relative beginner, there was a lack of documentation on the website, which I think as a newbie it made it very difficult.
Anything else got something, or we can go to questions if you don't have anything? Awesome. Yeah.
So I recommend you send a pull request to Laravel for all the documentation that you put together for yourself to make this work. I mean, because that's, if you found it challenging, other people are finding it challenging.
Yeah, that wouldn't be a bad idea.
Yeah, especially if those frustrations are fresh in your mind still, so it's the perfect time to write that.
Speaking of pull requests, just so you know, it's here if anyone wants to improve it. Cool. So, go ahead.
That actually leads into my question, which is, so now you've got an IDE that does Git stuff and code editing, facing some number of users, and you know roughly how many users are using it?
Oh, I could answer that question actually. What?
Well, yeah, how many users are using it?
Just the people in Englewood codes. That was part of the authorization side of things.
Oh, I see.
So when you log in, it will, once you log in and authorize, the first thing it'll do is grab a list of people that are a member of the Englewood Codes organization and verify your membership in that group.
Oh, I'm just right. This is halfway through my question. I'm just looking for the number of people known to be.
Okay, I'm sorry. I kind of jumped the gun there.
That's okay. But you know how many?
Damon would be better able to answer that question.
How many people are going to be using this?
Yeah. So again, is everybody clear about how this is helpful and why Cloud9 would not be?
Yeah.
Okay. So over the summer, we're going to have 6 students heavily using it. But into the fall, I've gotten a request from a number of schools that want us to come out and do occasional trainings. So all we need is a computer lab. I need to talk to your tech person. Half the schools don't even have computer teachers, right? So nobody knows the admin class, right? So It'll be any number of students using this. But over the summer, it'll be 6, plus the remaining, 19 that were part of our program before that are also open to using it as well.
Oh, okay. So I thought there were already real users, and the question I was going to ask was...
Well, they are.
Oh, there are. So is there a process for socializing the process of filing bug reports and enhancement requests to your product from those users? Because the GitHub, for people who are just using this code for the first time, the bug filing interface itself is kind of a very new thing.
Right. Yeah. So you're saying any people using this, if they find something,
how are they getting feedback to you, and how are you tracking it and getting word back to them when it's fixed, etc.?
That's actually a good point. We don't have anything currently that directs anyone to, file an issue in GitHub, for example. But I suppose we could easily do that, and that's something that we should work on.
Yeah, I just think when real users start using it, that's amazing data. Like it's gold. Grab it.
Yep.
Yeah. So you're doing like an actual Git protocol push, rather than using the Git write. So you're not doing a
correct. Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's full, just like you go open up a command line and type git push origin master. That's literally what it's doing.
And that's what we were very excited about as the client that the developer team brought to the table. This custom command box, right? That means literally when we turn students loose onto like a real computer that they have control over, and they're in the command line, they're not thinking about like 3 different ways of it, right? They already know Git command, so they're just doing that in the command line. Now they have to just get familiar with command. Makes sense? So it's a great bridge from being on Facebook in the browser to coding in the browser with Git, and then doing some real development.
It's what also allows us to do like more complicated things like pull requests. Go ahead.
Yeah. Have you considered any sort of more full-featured like terminal emulator as part of the IDE, as like rather than just issuing commands one at a time, here sort of spit it in, spit it back out, something that looks more like a terminal window that gets them more comfortable working on the terminal.
Yeah, I don't know that we considered that in the time. This was over 10 weeks, and
Sure.
all of the students here, we all did something we didn't know. The rest of St. Clair, very sure of that. But it's a great idea, right? It'd be fantastic if people could really have that terminal feel.
Yeah. I'm just curious if there's something you thought about long term.
I don't think we really talked about that.
And one thing that we were as I was like coming up with new things to do, and I was getting some honest feedback from is like, we're not trying to replace, right, GitHub or like a real full-blown IDE. Or even a command terminal. This is training wheel. It's really just about the Git flow, and being familiar with that in a way that's accessible and immediately transparent.
Mm-hmm.
I think this does that really, really well.
Anyone else have anything?
So again, this will be in CPS schools, coming to a school near you. Someone was enjoying Englewood codes on GitHub.
They kind of. So how hard would this be to deploy myself? And set it up to use a different group or whatever.
I have here. This is our repository, right? And I have somewhere in here. I think I put it in the. Here it is. Installation.md. Right here. It tells you exactly how to set it up and install it yourself. All you have to do is slap on a new logo.
It's open
source. Yep.
Or join Englewood.
I think it's a. But we can't, right?
I mean, you can talk to me.
We can't.
We know a guy.
I think it's a great project because until I actually got my first real software engineering job, I had no idea what GitHub was, what Git was, and you have to learn that whole process. And before as an indie developer, me and an artist, we were never using that. We just zip up our daily builds, didn't have any. We had zips of everything. If you messed up, no version control. You're going back a day. So until I started work at Spook Tool and then later Zynga, I had to learn all this stuff. And you kind of like opening up Maya or Max as a programmer trying to be an artist for a day. That's kind of what I viewed it as. And that's awesome because if people are going to learn this in school, definitely be proud for the work world because this is what everyone uses when you're on a team of like 5 or more. So it's really cool.
I mean, that is one of the things we try really hard to do is to get feedback from our alumni. I mean, it's really hard to get always everything into the curriculum, but now I was telling them the next thing that is unit testing, integration testing. Get it in. You're not doing it, so that's something we're trying to do too because you need to know it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I remember my first commit for when I first started the first day. It was like add your credentials to get logged into the app at the time. It was the Wizard of Oz Munchkin build that we were working on, so I had to add me as a credentials and make one line of code. And the guy was like, okay, do this command. I'm like, okay, what does that do? He was telling me. I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, you're telling me I could commit. I'm not gonna mess up anything. He's like, yeah, but until you do push, then it goes to master. You're on the server. Everyone can pull your stuff down. And it was a whole learning process. And I think it's really cool that you guys kind of streamline, whoever said training wheels in here. To get this going because it is important version control and seeing other people's code, teams, sharing everything. So very cool.
Yeah.
You should have a license.
Yes, we should.
You totally took my question.
That was actually something that was in the back of my head as we were finishing it up, and then so much got into it that I forgot. But yes, we should.
And when you do, it'd be useful to add that and a link to the instructions on the README. Because I think I noticed on the repo, you just kind of have a blank README that has a build passing or something. But that's the first people going to see, right? That's the place for sort of just here's this thing, here's what it's all about, here's how you sell it.
Yep, definitely. Great, you all good?
Can you deploy this in public libraries, please?
That's awesome.
That's a website.
What's the deploy?
Yeah, right.
It's a
It's a
URL.
website. That's the idea.
Right. Just tell the staff to set their computers down.
Yes. What's the long-term maintenance for? So the class is over. How's it
I
going?
mean that's I think one of the real difficulties with this. We've done 4 capstone classes right now, and I try to make it really clear to the end user. After 10 weeks, it's all yours, and our hands are off. And the first project we did, I was working on it. I was finishing it up over the summer, working with the end users because the students were done. I have to say this was a phenomenal group that was working on it over spring break. They were done with the class, but over their spring break, a number of them were still working on it. I know there's some commitment on the part of some of them to continue on it. But we did try to make it clear to Demond too, if that doesn't happen, we could have a problem, right? So. Yeah, that's an issue because this was a class project.
One of the important things for incentivizing continuing work on it is that we know it's going to do some good, right? So Demond brought out 3 of the students, and he met with they met with all of us, and it's just really cool to see that we're actually helping people.
I have to say that the work effort of the students in the capstone class is greater than I've ever seen in another class. So. I mean, and it really is because they're not doing it for me. They're not doing it for themselves. They're doing it for someone else, and it really, I see students working harder in this class than in any other class. So it's really a great experience.
How close are you guys to hitting the 10-week mark? I mean,
she said working over spring break.
Well,
so it was a little.
The 10-week.
Yeah.
We've yet to have a project completely finished. 10 weeks, but it
depends
depends on whether I'm working on it or the students are working on it. Luckily, this class, they continue to work on it.
Cool.
Yeah.
What was the age group, the students?
18 to 22-year-olds, all undergraduate students.
No.
History. Yeah. You don't care about that.
Yeah. It was high school age.
Oh, high school age. Yeah. So he had the kids he brought out were freshmen and sophomores.
Okay.
And they loved it.
Yeah.
Again, we had
and they were sharp.
And the browser was just a hot mess, right? So, so they know now they can just, they went home, they were using it. This summer we're going to hit the command terminal, but yeah, they're ready to roll with games.
So what's the outreach to the CPS?
That's the outreach. They're reaching out to me. I am in school in Austin, on the west side. I live in Englewood, and I work in Englewood. I can't get out there, right? So, as we get these requests, and that's something I think about over the summer. We're ready to go. I had no way of logging in and quickly rolling out, like without spending significant time setting up, teaching students how to code, and like they can see the full functionality and the sheer thrill of doing that. So, you know, I had a high school club last spring. I'm sorry, middle school club last spring, and we used Notepad. I mean, literally, it was just like if it was wrong, it was just wrong. I had to figure it out. Right? This is a little better, you know.
Thanks.
Yeah. Kind of on that note, is there any kind of like syntax highlighting for it? Or is
There,
it just,
yeah, there is.
I
So
can tell from over here.
yeah, the,
Thanks to who did that?
Yeah.
yeah, right there. Notice you can see colors here.
So I will change the syntax based on what is or what our file is, like JavaScript, HTML.
Yeah, so there's HTML and see some JavaScript in here.
And I will give you error if you have something you shouldn't have this, like basic functionality.
Our students were like, oh wow.
Colors.
It was like all this like helpful feedback. They're like, oh my gosh, I don't have to just do everything perfectly. You know.
I'm kind of curious, is this, how many of these, this is like a project we're working with Git and GitHub. How many, was this the first time any of you have been used Git and GitHub before?
Most of the class have never used it
Really?
before.
Wow. So you guys kind of had to like go through this process yourselves, right, in the very beginning?
Yeah.
What do you think? Maybe 2 students that actually used Git before?
I think,
Yeah, it was me and I think Zach.
And I think one used Laravel, and most didn't know PHP or jQuery. And
Yeah. You said you had 14 students working on it.
14.
So how did you guys, like, did you guys use pull requests? How did you guys, like, what flow did you guys use?
So that was my thing. I said I was doing some of the lead stuff. We used GitHub issues right here. Yeah, we got them. We categorized them all, and look at that: 13 open, 174 closed. So
Project. Milestones.
Milestones. It's done. I did.
That's like every milestone ever. I swear, it's just.
we did have a little incentive too. We had, because in past projects, we had students sort of drop the ball along the way and just never respond. And so they had, what was some of the rules that you had?
You had to respond within a day or you failed the class.
Right. They responded within 24 hours or they failed the class, and we had, the department approved of that. So I told them it was, you know, it was in the syllabus and I would hold them to it. If they missed 2 classes unexcused, they would fail the class. We had each other's phone numbers towards the end, and I believe we called a few of the students that might be in this room, making sure they're on their way to class, because we already had one missed, and there was one more.
I know it. It was if you get less than a B on this project,
Yes.
you fail the class.
Right. Regardless of
there were
what
other things in the class, so.
Yeah, so we try to put some things in place to really, you know, to prevent people from just not responding, especially when you know, we try to get clear to them, you know what, so-and-so's waiting for your code. So they can't do their work without you giving them what they need. So you can't not respond. You can tell them, hey, I need more time to work on it. I'm stuck on this. That's fine, but you can't not respond. So that was some of the rules we have in class. And no one flunked. So that was good.
This is score you give everybody? 90. Minus? Solid. Cool. Any other questions? Awesome. Well, this was great. Thank you. All right. So now is the time for breaking out and doing other things. I forgot to mention it. A month ago when we had, so first of all, GitHub actually sponsored this event and they bought your burrito. So yay for GitHub. Also, this is like a GitHub themed like event. So in addition to this presentation and the burritos, we're actually going to have a workshop on Intro to Git and GitHub. So if you're interested in doing that, we're actually going to like walk down the command line and like just sort of get started on Git for the very first time. So if you're interested in that, you can stay in this room. We did this about a month ago, and I think, did you have a
Yeah, you have 2 minutes to talk about what happened to the civic hacking weekend?
Oh, yes, absolutely, yeah. Okay, yeah, definitely. Yeah, so anyway, real quick, wrapping up the Git thing. So there was a group of us that were part of an intro, I believe, a month ago. Are any of you still here Okay. There was talk of maybe doing like an intermediate version of that, which maybe we get into some stuff like branching and things, pull requests and stuff like that. So show of hands if you're interested in sort of like the intermediate. Like I know the command line, I know how to use Git. I just want to like get a little bit more of my hands dirty. Okay. Arfin, would you mind leading that? That'd be awesome. Okay, great. So Arfin, you're gonna get here right from the horse's mouth, right here.
I'm terrible.
He's getting. Don't tell anybody you don't know Git or Git. So great. So you guys can kind of connect with him, and then if you're interested in the intro thing, stay in this room. But before we break out, did you want to talk about the nationalistic hacking really quick?
So let me plug your back in, and I have all of our veterans.
Do you have the Yeah. What's that? Yeah. That's some parts to do.
Awesome. We should have done this in the announcements. Sorry. We got Rita's here earlier. So does everybody know what the National Day of Civic Hacking is? Have you guys ever heard of this before? No? Yes? You haven't? Wow. Okay. This is like, Christopher, you want to just explain what that is?
Let me pull up the,
where are you going?
There I am. Don't need to see that. Don't need to see that. You do need to see. Okay, cool. And while I'm at it.
Have to change.
Yay! Okay. So National Day of Civic Hacking was a nationwide event. We had 123 events in 103 cities. That means some cities were badass enough to have more than one event, of which Chicago was one of them. We had two main events happening this weekend. We had Hack for Change in the Chicago Loop at the offices of Cape Cura, and we had a Hack for Youth event at the Adler Planetarium, of which Arfin will explain.
Yeah, so we did this for the first time last year when it was the first National Day of Civic Hacking. We actually had a youth-centered event, so these were, sorry. We'll do that in a second. Yeah, so we had, we partnered actually with a few organizations in the city, Make the Challenge, and I'm going to Free Spirit Media to do like video production. So this was teen-owned problems in the city, and the groups basically brought things that were affecting their life in the city to the Adler, and we actually hacked on those problems there, which was really cool. So we did that kind of in a bit of a sprint last year, and this year it was much more deliberate, so we knew what we were doing a bit more, so it was kind of fun. So Robert's just going to show a little bit of what we got up to.
Yeah, so I'm going to start by introducing three young people who were part of the event. Why don't you say your name, Bronson?
I'm Bronson.
Well, we introduced stuff at the beginning, but again, a little bit more like ICFA or school or age, grade.
I go to Moore Park High School and part of the Miracle Challenge City Youth Education Council along with this one.
That one.
My name is Lynn. I'm a sophomore at Jones College Prep, and I'm also on the Midwest Education Council.
I'm Tim. I just graduated high school at Deerfield, up north from here. And
you just showed up.
Yeah, I just kind of showed up. My teacher told me about it, and I'm just like, okay, I'll go. So I did.
So I'm like I said, with the High Learning Network and those other stuff, and I came out because I'm a volunteer at the Adler, and these guys were working on a school culture problem. So their issue was about school culture, improving school culture, and they had been working all year long at the Adler on civic hacking projects around certain issues. So they were really trying to create sites that would tell the story of their issues and maybe suggest some solutions to these issues. So one of them, for instance, one of the issues and solutions was around trying to make restorative justice options for like school violations visible, right? So that kids would know. But Bronson, say a word about it, because you're eloquent about this.
A whole lot of the time, the SEC has tried to incorporate more restorative justice options. At the same time, it's still kind of confusing to read for a whole lot of students. So
a whole lot of time, you're not actually supposed to get detention or suspension as a first punishment when you do something. It's actually supposed to go to restorative justice first, but most schools aren't too acquainted with this, so they kind of skip over that part.
Yeah.
So we wanted to try to help streamline this a little bit better, give students a little bit more information about what their rights are,
Right.
and hopefully help them understand the code of conduct more, because currently the code of conduct is available on the CPS website, but it's simply as a PDF form, and I hear that is a coder's nightmare. But
Well, there's like, it's like thick, 50 or 60 pages of
Especially on this balance.
Legalese.
48 or something in code of conduct.
And then more or less.
Sideways, I love
that. And then more or less.
So these guys took these sideways tables and they copied and rotated them, and they copied and pasted the data into a Google Docs spreadsheet.
This took hours.
Which took hours. And then let's skip to the good stuff. And then our buddy Tim, do you want to say a word or two what you did?
Sure. So they wanted to create a website, and I knew very little about HTML. I was more familiar with Java and C++ and stuff. And so I kind of learned HTML on the way, as well as another volunteer there told me about this program. Stuart Lynn told me about this program called TaffyDB, which is a JavaScript database, which he told me to use. So me being me and not knowing what to do, I said, why not? He taught me how to use it properly for the most part. And I learned how to use that, as well as he taught me some jQuery and some CSS.
Yeah, but I mean, I was very impressed by how much independent progress you were making too, so you should give yourself a little credit for that. But Stuart was definitely very helpful. And the product, oh, and Lynn, do you want to just say a word? Do you want to do the?
Yeah, I'll do the demo. So Google is basically Student Code of Conduct, SCC. It's basically very similar to Google, so a lot of students are familiar to how to use it. It's not that complicated, very simple. What is your issue is searches up the keywords or tags of the Student Code of Conduct. So if there's any
capital fighting works really well.
Yeah.
Currently,
So
it's
capital
case
F.
sensitive, but we're
Is this on?
Okay, start with capital. Yeah.
So it's case sensitive.
At the moment.
Just type it in. Capital F. Oh, there it is. It's not one. Oh, but if you do cap, yeah, there you go. Caps. Case sensitive.
Such as fighting. So if you search up fighting, it depends on what kind of fighting there is. There are between two people with intent to harm but no injuries. This is level 3, seriously disruptive behavior, fighting physical contact between two. It tells what the restorative action should be and what are the consequences, as well as type of behavior. It is very easy to look through it, unlike the Student Code of Conduct, which we're all supposed to receive at the beginning of the year when we have to sign a contract, but a lot of students either don't receive it or they're forced to sign it. And I got a Spanish Student Code of Conduct last year, and it's kind of like. And
You should buy just because we don't have it.
Going back, let's just say there aren't any search results. If you scroll down, this is the whole spreadsheet. If there's anything you have issues about, you can look through here, and it's very easy. We're still trying to add more, and this is it.
Essentially, we're hoping that one day we could also add a few more resources, like maybe articles from around the city that could help students understand more what their rights were, and also have some like polls, get some data from those polls, like be like, have you been suspended or gotten detention for this, to sort of see how often these wrong decisions are made. And we also want to have youth, students, and parents share their experiences so that they can be inspired to start projects in their own schools to fix some of this stuff. And we know that there's a few things to work out, but this is a developing project and we want to continue this, and we're looking for help. We did this with 5 youth and 2 educators. Out of all those people, like 1.25 of us could actually code. And this was all done over the past weekend, so I think we still got a pretty good product out. But if any of you are still interested, I have like business cards with my email on them. Please send me an email and I can send you the information if you want to help us out with it.
Yeah, and so it's hosted on GitHub. The repository was Tim CHOH585. Is that it, Tim? So if you guys want to join in and help move this project ahead, we'd love the support. But there's so much more that happened.
And then very quickly, there were 3 other things that worked on. There was this app got really advanced. So there's I'm going to make up this stat, but it's close to correct. Something like 30% of all homeless people on the streets, 40, thank you, in Chicago are actually LGBT, and so people get kicked out of home. And lots of the charities in the city, I guess, give preferential treatment to certain sectors of that group. So if you're a young gay man, then there are homes that will look after you, but not if you're a transgender woman. So you have to basically, it's really hard to know where you can go and who can support you. So we actually made this thing, a group that made this tool where you can actually look up against a list of sources of information. So there's this Google. We also made this fun app called Grounded, which was this idea that really having an electronic tag for youth, often when it wasn't a violent crime, when somebody's been out and put out on parole, it's actually really demoralizing and embarrassing, and it really actually is really, so when you've got a tag around your ankle, and it's really a horrible experience. So we actually just made this Instagram selfie-based application, so you basically just have to check in on Instagram with the location every 2 hours, and it will actually just ping your supervisor to say that you've checked in, and also remind you if you haven't done recently. So that was kind of a bit of a fun app that we made. And the last thing was, because they've got a kick-ass visualization team at Adler, they did a nice visualization of all the narcotics incidents in the last decade, showing, and you can basically see where, well, let's just let it run. But anyway, it was an awesome weekend, and hopefully we'll see some of you next year. Cool. Thanks, guys.
Cool. Cool. Awesome. So before we break out, again, if you want to do Git, intro to Git, stay in this room. And if you want to do advanced Git, GitHub, our friends are man. Christopher, you want to give your keynote?
If this is your first time at Hack Night and you are completely new to civic hacking, open data, open source, I do about a 15-20 minute civic hacking 101. We try to have it in one of the conference rooms around the corner. Because everybody's kind of busy in the rooms, I'll check there. But if everything's cramped, we'll move out to the big space. How many people are interested in that? So just so I know how much room I need. Quite a bit. So we'll go out to the big space, and I'll find a big table for us to be at. Cool. Because I don't think we're going to all fit.
So before we break up, does anybody have any projects they want to share with the group that they're working on, that they want some help with, or just want to have a conversation around? This is now sort of like open forum, just to say what you're working on. Yeah.
Yeah, I just want to share with everyone what you saw that we did. If you would like to give a hand and learn some stuff, then you can talk to me, and we can figure out where we can go to that. But I find stuff we can add.
Cool. Anybody else? Yeah.
On the same note, we need help.
Like people want to get out of this. So we'll call the wrap. Thanks, guys. We'll see you next week.